Hello, and welcome to episode 2.3 of my Let's Talk About Pathfinder series. Let's build a Pathfinder character. In this episode, we're going to talk about the final 2 points of building a character, your class features and your equipment. My name is Brother Patrick, and if you'd like to hear my credentials or you're confused about where you are, I recommend that you watch the first video in this series before moving on. Also, short disclaimer, this series is about Pathfinder 1st edition, not 2nd edition. So if you're looking to get into 2E, that's great, congrats, you've picked a solid game, but that's not what we're talking about today. Instead, I'm going to share with you a step-by-step guide to building a Pathfinder 1st edition character from blank sheet of paper to finished product. Now once again, I'm going to be throwing a ton of information at you here, so feel free to pause the video, rewind, write stuff down, whatever you need. This information is covered in hundreds of pages in the core rulebook, but not everybody has access to a 1st edition core rulebook. For one thing, they're out of print, and not everybody learns better through reading than through listening. Now additionally, this is part 3, so if you are looking to build a character from scratch, I recommend you start over from part 1. If you have seen the previous 2 episodes, that you'll remember, we are almost done building a 5th level human bard. All we've got going left is our class features and our equipment. Class features are the thing our class allows us to do, hence the name. They're the reason you choose a specific class over another one. And while technically the phrase class features does include things like spellcasting and skill points, we're setting those aside for now because we've already talked about those. Instead, I'm going to bring up the static parts of a class. And what I mean by static parts is the parts of a class you don't get to change or choose. Things like your base attack bonus, your base saving throws, your save DCs, and anything in the special category on the chart that says Bard on the Archives of Nethys. Now, base attack bonus is like D&D's proficiency bonus, with 2 key exceptions. First, it only applies to your attack rolls, and it varies based on which class you're playing. It comes in 3 flavors: full BAB, which means every level you take you get a +1, 3/4 BAB, which means your BAB goes up 3 out of every 4 levels, and half BAB, which means your BAB goes up every even level. There are a few hard and fast rules about BAB that make it easy to remember what your progression is. For example, if you're playing a 9-level caster like a wizard or a sorcerer, and you cast arcane spells, you are always going to have a half base attack bonus. If you are playing a character who's designed to be a frontline fighting machine, like a fighter or barbarian, you are always going to have a full base attack bonus. And just about everyone else is going to have a 3/4 base attack bonus. Now, you don't need to memorize this information. Every class chart has it written down on the left side. Now, your base attack bonus applies to every attack roll you make, whether it's a spell attack roll, a sword attack roll, an unarmed strike, elusive and arrow, or even in a combat maneuver. You should take note that on the Bard chart on the Archives of Nethys, it says at 8th level that our base attack bonus goes up to +6/+1. What this means is if you swing a weapon and you don't move in the same turn, you can combine your movement with your attack roll to make a full attack action. This is called an iterative attack. The second attack is made at a -5 penalty, hence the +6/+1. If you're an 8th level bard and you have an ability score modifier of +3 to add to your attacks, like we do, you can make 1 attack per round with a total +9 modifier, and a second attack per round with a total +4 modifier. When your base attack bonus reaches 11, which for us is 15th level, you get a third attack at a -10 penalty, and if you're a fighter or a barbarian and you eventually hit 16 BAB, you get a 4th attack at a -15. Remember that making a full attack action in this way removes your ability to move in a round, so if you want to move before or after attacking, you can only make 1 attack that round. The exception is of course the 5-foot step. You can always make a 5-foot step in any turn that you have not made a move action. Go back and watch that section as many times as you need until you understand it. It's a lot. I'm here to repeat myself as many times as you need. Okay, let's move on to base saves. As I said in a previous episode, every class has between 1 and 2 good saves, and the rest are bad saves. Good saves are defenses your character should be good at. If you're a spellcaster type with a resilient mind, you will always have a good will save. If you're slippery and hard to pin down, you'll likely have a good reflex save. And if you're tough and hardy, you will almost certainly have a good fortitude save. Now, while these numbers, like all rolls in Pathfinder, are modified by an ability score, your class provides the base save bonus. A good save starts at +2 and goes up by 1 every even level. A bad save starts at +0 and goes up every 3 levels. You don't need to memorize this information, every class has it written down. As a 5th level bard, our base attack bonus is +3, since we're a 3/4 BAB class, and 3/4 of 5, rounded down, is 3. Our good saves are Reflex and Will. Our bad save is Fortitude, which means we have a +1 base Fortitude save, and +4s in our Reflex and Will saves. Now again, these numbers, including the attack bonuses, are modified by an ability score. You will almost never roll a class feature by itself without adding an ability score first. The last thing I want to talk about before I get into the parts of the bard that are special or unique is spell save DCs, which function a little differently than they do in Dungeons & Dragons. Now, in 5e D&D, your spell save is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your spellcasting modifier. And that's still sort of true, but Pathfinder does not have a proficiency bonus, so it's subbed out for the spell's level. Your spell save DC in Pathfinder is 10 plus the level of the spell you're casting plus your spellcasting modifier. In this case is Charisma. This means a number of things in terms of balance. First and foremost, it means a higher level spell has a better chance of taking effect than a lower level spell because the DC is boosted by the high level spell. A 6th level caster like a bard is almost always going to lag behind in terms of power level when compared to 9 level casters, who both acquire spells at lower levels and eventually get to higher level spells. A 5th level bard can cast a few 2nd level spells, but a 5th level wizard can cast 3rd level spells. A 15th level bard has 5th level spells, but a 15th level wizard has 8th level spells. This is, of course, why the wizard is considered to be more powerful. And it's also important to note that there's a trade-off here. A wizard can't swing a sword, can't sing songs to make allies stronger, and can't sling skills the way a bard can. Every class has strengths and weaknesses that shore each other up, and party composition can and will make or break a game. This is true of D&D, of course, but it's even more true in Pathfinder, where specialization is king. I'm going to write down our special class features and inspire courage here, but I'm not going to tell you about them here because I'm going to make a video later detailing everything the bard can do from scratch, and it's not super relevant to the video now. All you need to know is that these class features exist. You get them at the levels listed on the bard page, and the description of what they do is detailed below the bard table. Last, finally, let's talk about equipment. In Pathfinder 1.0, as in real life, your money is an extension of your power. The more money you have, the more powerful you are. Simple, right? Every level beyond first, your GM is expected by the rules to give you a certain amount of money, represented by gold, to keep your character competitive against the various monsters and baddos in the game. If you're not being given enough gold, it could result in your party being underpowered against a fight. Too much of it, and you'll breeze through encounters like nobody's business. The chart to determine how much money you should have at each level is titled Character Level by Wealth. Character Wealth by Level. And it's at the link in the episode notes below, the one with Legacy in the name. As a 5th level character, we have 10,500 gold pieces to spend on our equipment. Now that is a lot of money. Well, don't spend it all in one place. A lot of equipment is really expensive. Here's where I'm going to talk about something called the Big Six. The 6 items that every character is expected to have in order to stay competitive with appropriately leveled threats. These items are as follows. A Cloak of Resistance, which ranges from +1 to +5. It's a cloak, it boosts every save you make by its modifier. Saving throws can, and often are, be life and death. A magic weapon, which you only really need if you plan on using it. Also ranges from +1 to +5. Note that the bonus applies to both your attack and your damage rolls. By high levels, that +5 is 100% going to be the difference between hitting and not hitting. A suit of magic armor, which also ranges from +1 to +5. And again, you really only need it if you're proficient in it and you expect to be getting attacked. Very, very few classes grant static bonuses to your armor class. And for the most part, at high levels, an enemy's attack roll is going to outstrip your armor class really quickly, unless you're very much investing in it. But remember, every +1 to your AC is an additional 5% chance of an enemy missing an attack against you, and that pun intended, is worth its weight in gold. A ring of protection, which is also bonuses to your armor class. And the last two, headbands of intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, and belts of strength, dex, or constitution. These are flat ability score increases and are, personally, my favorite items in the game, because they apply to just about everything. If I buy a headband of charisma +2, it increases my save DCs, my spells per day, my bluff, diplomacy, and intimidate checks, and even my rounds of bardic performance every day. If I buy a belt of dexterity, it increases my weapon accuracy by 5%, my armor, my initiative, my sleight of hand, and so on. Headbands and belts are expensive, and they come in flavors of +2, +4, and +6, but you can stack them. You can buy, for example, a belt that increases both your dexterity and your constitution. Expensive. However, at high levels, you should expect to be boosting as many as 4 or 5 of your relevant ability scores at once, depending on your build requirements and your wealth. So, let's get back to the bard. Patrick here has 10,500 gold. I'm buying him a Cloak of Resistance +1, which costs 1,000 gold, a +1 Rapier, which costs 2,000 gold, a Headband of Charisma, which costs 4,000 gold, a Chain Shirt, which costs 8,000 gold, and a Ring of Protection +1, which costs 2,000 gold. That leaves us with 500 gold, which we're keeping for later levels, or maybe spending on things like potions, wands, other items. Remember that in Pathfinder 1.0, money is power. Restricting a character from gaining or spending gold is as much a power penalty as refusing to allow them to take a feat when they level up. The game's math fully expects your characters to have these items, and it takes into account when calculating things like challenge ratings for monsters. For this reason, as a GM, I usually tell my players that their wealth by level gold and their in-universe wealth are separate and abstract from one another. In this way, a character who is a wealthy noble and a character who is a monk with a vow of poverty don't have vastly different power levels. They might sleep in different places when they come to town, but that's roleplay and will never impact their effectiveness in combat. The last thing I want to mention when it comes to equipment is something called automatic bonus progression. This was a system introduced in Pathfinder Unchained, and designed to allow players to buy more interesting things than the same 6 pieces of equipment with every character. It grants your character the bonuses from the big 6 at various levels, but without needing to actually spend money or resources on them. Even if your GM doesn't allow automatic bonus progression, it's a good idea to use it as a guideline to determine what bonuses your characters should have from the big 6 at what level. At ABP level 6, you'll have a +1 bonus to saving throws, +1 armor bonus, a second +1 armor bonus, a +1 weapon bonus, and a +2 bonus to a mental stat, which you'll note are all things we bought with our actual gold. That means our character is probably on the right track when it comes to equipment. And that, finally, is how you build a character from scratch in Pathfinder 1.0. It took 3 episodes and about 40 minutes. But you should be able to apply these practices to any character of any class and race and level now. In the next episode, I'm going to give you a few pointers on how to be an effective and fair game master. If you liked this video, don't worry about like and subscribe nonsense, just support the Archives of Nethys on Patreon. Those guys are my heroes. I will put a link in the notes. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, or you just wanted to hang out and talk, you can reach me in the comments below at brother-patrick on Reddit. Thank you for watching, and once again, be well, my friends.